The Las Vegas Raiders have the makings of a great defense, but they had too many injuries, so they finished in the middle of the pack last season. They faced losing defensive coordinator Patrick Graham a couple of weeks ago, but thank goodness he's back. At 4 p.m. Eastern Time on March 12th, the Raiders have to face losing key defensive players as NFL free agency gets started. There are 17 Raiders scheduled to be free agents in total, and 11 or more defensive players. In a perfect world, you want all 11 of them back. Having that continuity and everyone knowing their role is very important. But if the question is how many of those defensive players do the Raiders have to have back if they want to have that great defense, I would say there are about 5 of them that they absolutely have to have back. The first guy I want to mention here is slot corner Nate the Natural Hobbs. From year 1 to year now, he's been the best slot corner in the game. You need that in today's game with all the 3 receiver sets opposing offenses are lining up in. It's hard to find a good slot corner too. Not only does he have to cover receivers that have leverage to run routes in either direction, but he has to be able to tackle too. Opposing offenses line up in the 3 receiver set more than any other set and run the ball out of it a lot too, so that slot corner has run responsibilities that are similar to a linebacker. Hobbs handles both of those responsibilities very well. There is a problem though. Hobbs has gotten injured throughout his career. A couple of years ago, he was moved to a regular corner position and actually played well until he injured his wrist and struggled to play with the cast on it. And of course, he's been injured other times, so I hope that brings the price down a bit, but I believe he's worth the risk. If you want to have a great defense in today's NFL, you gotta have a good slot corner, and Hobbs is that. The Raiders better have a good replacement if they don't keep him. Safety Trayvon Merrick is another guy the Raiders absolutely have to have back or have a good replacement for. It would be pretty hard to replace him with the skill set he has. Merrick is one of those guys that can do everything from the safety position. He has the range to be a single high safety, and of course he can handle the split safety responsibilities and being the robber. He can line up in the box and play the run too. And also from the box he can blitz, as Graham likes to do with them at times. Merrick is also good in man coverage on opposing tight ends and in the slot. He did get off to a bit of a slow start this past season, but he came on, and as it sits now, he's one of the best in the league. He had 104 tackles, 12 pressures, a sack, 3 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions this past season to show for his versatile skill set. He deserves for his salary to be somewhere in the top of the market for his position, so the Raiders should definitely give it to him. I love when my guys work out. If you can remember me that far back, he was my first round pick for the Raiders in 2021, and I was overjoyed that they ended up getting him in the second round. Now you know the Raiders got to have middle linebacker Robert Spillane back. If not for any other reason, Graham runs a very complex defense and Spillane gets everyone lined up and on their assignment in it. There are plenty of other reasons though. One is he's the heart and soul of the defense. He's a tone setter with his physical, hard-hitting style of play. Another is that he's an absolute playmaker in every way you need a might linebacker to be. Of course, he plays the run well. He doesn't miss tackles very often. He's good in coverage too. His man coverage skills are so underrated. Graham doesn't blitz him too often, but when he does, Spillane rewards him for it. He does it all, and his statistics in 2024 show it. This past season, he had 158 tackles, 13 pressures, 2 sacks, 7 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions. He was among the league's leaders in just about everything linebackers do this past season. The Raiders need to open up their checkbooks and get this one done. He's had 3 years in Graham's complex defense, right? That makes him even less replaceable along with all the plays he's made in different ways. Man, how good could the Raider defense have been if they had Malcolm Koonce in 2024? After the season he had in 2023, he wasn't even able to play it down for the Silver and Black this past season due to a torn ACL. His 2023 season was underrated. The stat sheet just says he has 8 sacks, and that's a good season playing opposite star edge rusher Max Crosby. But those sacks came in 9 games because Koonce was on the bench the first half of 2023. It wasn't until then head coach Josh McDaniels was fired that interim head coach Antonio Pierce came in and put him in the starting lineup. When I say Pierce came in and pressed all the right buttons the second half of 2023, this was one of them. Koonce took full advantage of all the one-on-ones he got as a result of all the double teams Crosby took. If he played the whole season, he could have been in the mid to high teens in sacks. He obviously has to pass the physical first, but he is a must-sign to see what he can do with Crosby and Christian Wilkins. I'm pretty sure the Raiders can work something out with him that fits the situation. One of the more underrated guys that the Raiders absolutely need to keep is interior defensive lineman Adam Butler. He was discovered in 2023 when he broke out with the 5-sack season. That's a good total for an interior defensive lineman. There aren't too many guys out there like Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs and Christian Wilkins of our Raiders reaching double digits in sacks. Butler had 31 pressures and 5 quarterback hits to go with those 5 sacks. He's always been a pretty good pass rusher, but he hasn't had a full-time gig until last year because he couldn't play the run very well. That has changed by leaps and bounds though. Part of the reason why Butler got a chance to play full-time was Wilkins' injury, but his improvement against the run was evident this past year. I'll tell you what though, the Raiders can really use his interior rush along with a healthy Wilkins this coming year against the Chiefs. The rest of the NFL found out in the Super Bowl 8 days ago that beating Patrick Mahomes is how you beat the Chiefs. The Raiders have known that since the 2023 season. If anything, the Eagles took the Raiders' blueprint. Okay, I'm sure you've heard by now that head coach Pete Carroll's plan is to run the ball and play defense. That means the Raiders need to try to keep their defense players together. You can't run the ball and play defense if you have too many of your important defensive players leave via free agency. And I've identified 5 guys that I don't believe the Raiders should let go unless they can replace them with a star. I'm going to give some honorable mention to edge rusher K'Lavon Chaisson because he really came on this past year. I don't have him on here because he isn't a guy the Raiders absolutely must have unless Kuntz doesn't come back. The same with Marcus Epps. He's on the list if Merrick and/or Polamalu don't come back. Thank you for watching. See you next time.